Namaste. Suffering can come through any way. Many a times you are living a good life and then one day you get married. And then comes a very difficult wife. And you start realizing that this wife is indeed a very, very difficult person, a very selfish person. And that is how your suffering begins. Of course, it is not applicable to everybody, but it is a fact that many, many husbands are suffering because of such difficult, insensitive, selfish, nagging wife. And then they don't know what to do because now they are trapped. They are trapped in this marriage and there is no way out unless they show courage. And so many a times this suffering at the hands of such a wife also makes you turn inwards. In a way, it can help you in your self growth because suffering is the sole origin of consciousness. So, in your life, you haven't suffered, you never suffered, but now you are suffering because of your wife. So, in a way, it can become a blessing in disguise, but for many, it is indeed a very, very difficult phase. In this podcast, I have talked about certain 9 signs that signify a wicked, insensitive, nagging wife. Always remember, the most dangerous woman or a wife is a wife who keeps nagging, and she can spoil a good husband. So, in this podcast, I have talked about many such insights. So, let's begin. Many husbands suffer at the hands of a quarrelsome, nagging, insensitive wife. I remember there was a man living in the US and his wife used to physically abuse him, and he was so afraid because he could not do anything. He was afraid that she may kick him out on the streets and he may become a homeless man begging on the streets of New York. So, although there is much talk about abusive husbands, still in this woman empowered age, very few people dare to speak on an abusive wife. Because a wife is a woman, and nowadays it has become a trend that whenever you talk against a wicked woman, or whenever you talk against any woman, you are strongly condemned. In fact, the laws of the land are always in favor of the woman, and so the poor husband is always struggling for the custody of his child, or he has to spend his life in convincing the court that how terrible his wife is. A nagging wife, a suspicious wife, a doubtful wife, a possessive wife, a dominating wife, or an utterly insensitive, arrogant, selfish wife All of these are very, very difficult situations for many husbands, and they just don't know what to do because now they are trapped. And now there is this whole society and parents and friends, and so they continue to suffer in a failed marriage. They continue to suffer at the hands of their selfish, insensitive wife. In this podcast, I am going to talk about signs in astrology that signify a difficult, insensitive, dangerous wife who can cause much harm to her husband. Please note that this podcast is not about a wife who cheats or indulges in extramarital affairs. For that, I will be talking in a new podcast. However, this podcast is only focused on a misbehaving, insensitive, arrogant, nagging wife. So now let's begin. In a male's chart, Venus signifies woman. Seventh house is the house of marriage. Seventh house Lord signify the overall condition of marriage and marriage partner. Along with seventh, 11th and 3rd house also is significant since 11th house signify manifestation of marriage and 3rd house signify mentality or mindset of marriage partner, since 3rd is 9th from 7th house. So now I will quickly note certain points that signify a quarrelsome, insensitive, difficult, selfish wife. When Venus is afflicted by Rahu, Ketu or Mars and 7th house is occupied by Ketu or Rahu or Jupiter, then problem with wife is seen. When Venus is placed in 8th house and 8th house Lord is debilitated while 7th house and 7th house Lord is afflicted by malefic, then problem with wife is seen. When 7th house Lord is combust and 7th house is occupied by Ketu or Rahu, problems with wife is seen. When Rahu and Ketu are placed in 1st and 7th house, or when Rahu is placed in the 7th house and Ketu is placed in the 1st house, and Venus is afflicted or weak in the chart, then problems with wife is seen. When retrograde Jupiter is placed in the 7th house and 7th house Lord is associated with Rahu or Ketu or Mars, then problems with wife is seen. When combust Jupiter is in the 7th house and combust Mars is in the 1st house and Venus is afflicted, then problems with wife is seen. When Venus is in Krur or Tikshna Nakshatra, then wife can indulge in black magic activities, or wife can be utterly dangerous and can cause much harm to her husband and to her in-laws by means of black magic. In some scenarios, such a wife has also contacted a contract killer, a supari killer, to kill her husband. Purva Falguni, Purva Shadha, Purva Bhadrapad, Bharani, Magha are addressed as Krur, meaning cruel nakshatras, while Mula, Jeshta, Adra, Ashlesha are Tikshna nakshatras. Krur means cruel and Tikshna means sharp like knife. Whenever Venus and 7th house Lord falls in these Krur or Tikshna nakshatras and the 7th house and 11th house Lord is afflicted by malefic planets, then the marriage is problematic and relation with wife is always stressed. Additionally, if your wife's moon is in Krur or Tikshna nakshatra, then also it becomes a big problem, especially if your Venus is afflicted and if her moon is in Tikshna or Krura nakshatras. In many cases, I have observed that a wife or ex-wife indulges in black magic spells to cause much harm to her ex-husband or to her present husband. Such scenarios occur when Venus is shady. Venus is placed in the 8th, 12th, or 6th house, and it is associated with 8th or 12th house lord. As well as if Venus is also in Krur or Tikshna nakshatra, then it is a very difficult situation. It is a very sad situation, and the husband literally suffers every day because of his wife, who is no less than a witch. Whenever 7th house lord is Mercury, and Mercury is combust or retrograde, and the native is Mangalik, meaning whenever Mars is placed in the 1st, 4th, 7th, 8th or 12th house, then the native is Mangalik. And so when you are a Mangalik, and when Venus is afflicted in your chart, and 7th house lord is afflicted, or 7th house lord is combust or retrograde, then definitely such a native's wife is quarrelsome, nagging, and can cause much harm to her husband and his family. Overall, as you all may have understood, there are many more combinations. However, for now, you all must remember that whenever Venus is afflicted and 7th house lord is combust or retrograde, and on top of that, if Rahu or Ketu occupy 7th house or aspect 7th house, then definitely you are going to suffer at the hands of your wife. Although this suffering is a payback for all the terrible things you did to woman in your past life. So instead of cursing your destiny and blaming your wicked wife, try to look within and realize your own shortcomings, and thereby try to practice tolerance. Or simply try to come out of this marriage by showing courage and not bothering about society and what people will say if you get a divorce. Always remember, when it is 12 in the noon, it is not the society that comes to feed you your lunch. When it is 8 p.m. in the night, it is not the society who comes to feed you your dinner. So then why you worry about society? Always remember, there are all kinds of people in this world. Even on this YouTube forum, there are people who try to dictate me on what should I say and what I should not. And I don't give a damn to such idiotic people. I just block them. You have to cut all those who have no understanding and who try to show off their intelligence when nobody has asked for it. So just don't give a damn to society. Be yourself. Be an individual. Live for one day, but live like a lion. Roar like a lion, and let your wicked wife know that you too can fight, that you too have the courage to fight for your freedom, to fight for justice. My utmost love and support to all those poor husbands who are suffering at the hands of their wife. I know that nobody would dare to talk against such difficult wives because they are women. But I am talking because I want to highlight these facts that there are dangerous, very difficult, insensitive, selfish wives who can cause much damage, and yet the society would never say anything about it. because the society is a hypocrite. Always remember, hypocrisy is cheap. You don't have to pay anything for it, but you are destroying your very soul and your very possibility of growth. Never be a hypocrite. Whatsoever the price you have to pay, it is better to pay it. But never ever be a hypocrite. Enough for now. Jai Sri Ganesha, Jai Guru. ॐ गं गणपतये नमः। ॐ गं गणपतये नमः। ॐ गं गणपतये नमः।